Welcome to the second video on grade 12 calculus, and we're going to take a look at derivatives, and we're going to concentrate on the short method. So the key word here is notation. Starting on the left, we have y prime, the derivative of f, dy dx, ddx, and then capital Dx with your function in a bracket. So here's the method. So if we have f of x equals a times x to the power of b, to find the derivative, we will take the exponent and multiply it by the coefficient. So we have b times a. You then write your x down, and you take your exponent and subtract 1. So therefore, exponent times coefficient times x to the power of the exponent minus 1. So the first type of question we're going to do is one with brackets. So you need to get rid of the brackets first. So we write y equals 3. We do FOIL, x times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x, negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. I then have y equals 3, x squared, minus 2x minus 3. We distribute the 3 into the bracket, so we get 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. Now I'm ready to differentiate. Now I can use different notation. I can either write y prime or dy dx. I'm going to write y prime equals exponent times coefficient. 2 times 3 is 6. You write your x down and you subtract 1 from the exponent, so it's x to the power of 1. Then we have exponent times coefficient, so we get negative 6. I will have an x to the power of 1 minus 1 is 0. X to the power of 0 is 1, so I just have a 6. Then please note, the negative 9 does not have an x. So if you want, you can write x to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 except for 0 will be 1. 0 times negative 9 is 0. Then you don't have to write down x to the power of negative 1, because 0 times x to the negative 1 will still be 0. Therefore, y prime will be 6x minus 6. For type 2, we have a look at questions with roots. So over here, we're going to first rewrite it as f of x equals 5 times x. Please remember it's x to the power of 1 under the root, so we write it as 1 over 2 as I'm taking a square root. So therefore we're ready. F derivative x equals exponent times coefficient. A half times 5 is 5 over 2. You write your x down, subtract 1 from the exponent, so a half minus 1 is negative a half. We don't leave our answers with negative exponents. So to make it positive, we will rewrite it as 5 over 2 times x to the power of positive a half. We can neaten it up a little bit, so we can write it as 5 over 2. And please remember that that bottom one tells you what type of root. So in other words, it's a square root. And then the top one tells you what power. So it's x to the power of 1. And there is your derivative. Now for type 3, we're going to look at fractions, but we're going to have one term in the denominator. So you're going to first start by separating it. So we're going to rewrite it as f of x, and we're going to write it as 3x squared over x, and then plus x over x, and then minus 1 over x. Simplify it. So we can write it as 3x squared divided by x is x, plus x divided by x is 1, and then rewrite this as negative x to the power of negative 1. Now you are ready to differentiate. So we can write the derivative equals, now there's an imaginary 1 over there. So exponent times coefficient, so 1 times 3 is 3, and then the x will become x to the 0. So you can just leave it like this because it will become a 1, and 3 times 1 is 3. Over here, there's no x over here, so we can write it as x to the 0, exponent times coefficient. 0 times 1 is 0. then exponent times coefficient, there's an imaginary -1. -1 times -1 is +1. Write your x down. -1 is -2. So the derivative equals 3, leave out the 0, plus 1 over x squared, just to make that negative exponent positive. And then for type 3, also with fractions, but more than one term in the denominator, so please factorize first. So therefore, difference of cubes, so remember small bracket and big bracket. So leave your denominator as is. In the small bracket, we take the cube root of 8x cubed, which is 2x. We use the same sign, so it's negative. Cube root of 1 is 1. Then we take the first term, we square it. 2x squared becomes 4x squared. Opposite sign, so it's a positive. Multiply the two terms, so it's 2x. Always positive, and 1 times 1 is 1. Please remember, you can't factorize the quadratic equation or the quadratic expression that you get over there. Then you can actually cancel those. So f of x equals 4x squared plus 2x plus 1, and then you are ready to differentiate. So the derivative equals exponent times coefficient. 2 times 4 is 8. Write the x down, it comes to the power of 1. 1 times 2 is positive 2. The x falls away, so it becomes x to the 0. And then we already know that the constant over here will be a 0. So there we go, that is our derivative. And then sometimes we just get the weird. So it's important to have a look. It says ds dt. So that means you have to first get s alone. Now, first I'm going to say s equals t minus 3 bracket squared over the cube root of t. And then I'm going to multiply out on top, so I get t squared. Then t times -3 times 2 is -6t. Always positive, 3 times 3 is 9. Over, I can rewrite this as t. Remember, the exponent is inside over outside, so it's a third. I've got one term in the denominator, so I'm going to split it. So I'm going to write t squared over t to the power of a third, and then minus 6t over t to a third, and then positive 9 over t to a third. So then I can have s equals, now remember your exponential rules, so when you divide, you subtract the exponents, so you will have 2 minus a third, and 2 minus a third gives you 5 over 3. Then it will be minus 6t. 1 minus a third gives you 2/3. Then you will have 9 times t to the negative a third. Now we're ready to differentiate. So ds dt. So exponent times the imaginary 1 that's in front is 5 over 3. Write your t down. 5 over 3 minus 1 gives you 2/3. Then we have 2 over 3 times -6, and that gives me -4. We write our t down. 2/3 minus 1 gives me -1/3. And then we have -1/3 times +9. That gives me -3. We write our t down. And -1/3 minus 1 gives me -4 over 3. I'm going to neaten it up for you. Ran out of space over here, so I'm just going to do it over here. So ds dt will equal, and then I'm just going to write it a little bit neater. So it's 5 over 3. Remember, the bottom denominator tells me what type of root, so it's the cube root of t squared. And then that would be minus 4 over t to the power of a third, which is the cube root of t, and then I've got negative 3 over t to the positive 4 over 3, so that would be the cube root of t to the 4, and there is my derivative. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like and share this, and if there is any other section that you want us to cover, please let us know.